Hey, this is AJ. Welcome back to the handyman process. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to make more as a handyman. I was inspired to make this video actually from this morning. I got a a subscription alert to YouTube that the Essential Craftsman had uploaded a new video. If you've never checked out his channel, go ahead and check that out. But in that video, he went over, I think it was 7 different ideas of how to make more money as a contractor. And it wasn't some of the sleazy stuff that other people are out there trying to promote. It was basically just principles that he's observed over his time as a general contractor and how he applies it to his business. And it was basically shared wisdom. So I got a lot out of it. I really appreciated the video, and I thought I would tweak it a little bit from my handyman perspective, because I'm not doing general contractor type of work, but the principles that he talked about still apply. So I'm going to go over basically 2 or 3 different principles and how they apply, things that I think all handymen and handywomen struggle with as we go over that. And I'm sitting here on my stool. It's actually my fest stool, but I'm sitting in my fest stool, and I figured I would do this video. So stay tuned. All right, so principle number 1 is knowing your worth. How much are you worth as a handyman, whether it's a project or an hourly cost? How much are you worth? Like, it's a good question. When we all start with a number, right? We all start with a number when we first get into this business, and that number is like, what would I be willing to pay somebody to do what I'm about to do? And that's an approach, and I think it's an approach that all of us take. But over time, you see other people around you pulling in kind of crazy money, and you're like, well, how are they getting that money? I have different things that make me stand out more than that person. And the difference is that they know their worth, and they select their customers based off of their worth. So we go through this evolution, right, of trying to understand our worth. One way to understand your worth, and probably the quickest way to understand your worth, and it's also a point that the Essential Craftsman points out, is get to know the other people doing the kind of work you're doing in your area. It's not taboo to go, if you're a plumber or a handyman or carpenter, whatever, to go associate with other carpenters. I would say associate with the good ones, right? The ones that have great reputations, and be like, hey, I'm in this biz. I'm trying to understand, like, how are you getting your rates? I'm not trying to take anything off your plate. I'm just trying to understand. And a lot of them will just tell you, they'll straight up tell you, this is what I do. This is why I charge what I charge. So that's kind of point number 1, is go find out what other people in your area are charging and understand how are they getting away with that. And the first thing that they'll probably tell you is they don't go after the bottom feeders, right? And the bottom feeders, you see it all the time on Nextdoor or Facebook or whatever social capacity you have in your area, where somebody says, hey, I need this done, and 30 guys jump in with their business cards, clobbering up the space. You're not competing with those guys, right? And you got to get that out of your head, right? And if you're a new guy, you're like, well, then how am I going to get work? It takes time, right? It takes time to get yourself established. What your goal is to establish yourself as a high quality value proposition for the homeowner. And what that means is you're not going to take every job. You're going to take the jobs that are commensurate with your skill level. And if you don't have skills, then you got to build up those skills, and you're going to be at a lower salary or rate until you get there. But if you do have skills, if you're coming to this like me later in life, where you've got skills, you've been doing this for a while, not only do you have the handyman skills, more importantly, you have the social skills. And this is where a lot of the worth comes in to play, is I can communicate well, right? That's a big thing. I'm reliable. I've never been late for a job, ever. And if there's something pops up, I tell clients as early as possible, but so far I've never been late. I don't give windows. I'll be there between 9 and 12. I'll be there at 10 o'clock, and I'll be there 5 minutes, 10 minutes earlier than 10 o'clock. That's reliability. That's dependability. That's a quality that you possess and you have that you're offering to your clients. So if you possess those types of qualities, use them, utilize them, because you'll be known as the guy who shows up. Because if you go back to that Facebook reference I was making before, and you read don't use this guy, don't use that guy, they showed up, they ghosted me. Like, you just show up and you're a step ahead of the game. So knowing your value, kind of from that perspective. Excuse me, I got to put my glasses on. I'm getting a little bit blind here. I took a few notes. So we talked about on time, talk about being reliable. So You build that reliability metric over time by doing work for multiple people. Yeah, he always shows up. He always does what he says he's going to do. He answers his phone or text message or gets back to me fairly quickly. So that's important. So moving on to kind of the next aspect of this is setting clear expectations with your customers. Like if they hire you, what can they expect? So if you're lucky, you've been referred by word of mouth, right? Somebody else has used you before and referred to you, so they've already done a lot of the pre-work for you. That's the golden standard, right? That's what you're ultimately going for and shooting for, that other people are promoting you. But let's say you show up at a house, you've gone over the numbers, you figure out the scope of work, and you give your number, right? As part of giving that number is reiterating, what are they getting, right? They're getting that reliability. They're getting that clear communication. In my case, they're getting the software that I run and utilize, which means they're getting notifications when I send them an estimate. They're getting notifications of schedule confirmation. They're getting notifications when the work starts, when it stops, and they're getting electronic invoices if they want. So they get all of that stuff, right? Not a lot of people do that. Not the guys on Facebook aren't doing that, right? They're asking for cash, they're asking for a check at the end of the job. Maybe they're writing up on a piece of paper. So that's a differentiator right there. In addition to that, if you have social preference in terms of reviews on Google or Facebook, you could bring those things up. Hey, I think I'm 30 something 5-star reviews on Google. Usually people already know that, but I know when they find me, they'll come to my website and they'll say, I found you on Google. So I know they've read the reviews, right? Or if they're savvy, they've read the reviews. But if they're not, like they don't know you, they just referred to you, say, hey, you can go check me out. Go on to Facebook, go on to Nextdoor, go on to Google. You can read my 5-star reviews. If you really want to go talk to somebody I've done work with recently, let me know. I'll put you in touch with a client. I haven't had to do that yet, but I'm always prepared to do it if I have to, because it sets people at ease. And then the final thing, I think this is probably my most important characteristic, and I can validate this by the fact that people give me their keys sometimes to their house, even on my first job, which just blows me away, is people want to feel comfortable with you around their stuff, their house, their family, their dogs, whatever it may be. So building that trustworthiness, I don't really know how to build that other than the reputation that precedes you, right? And this goes back to, hey, I was referred by so-and-so. I've been told over the years that I'm an approachable person, they felt like they trust me. I don't know the advice to truly give that to you other than the way that I carry myself. Some of my military service, I think, has a bearing in my area. Veterans want to hire veterans. Sorry, I got a siren going on in the background, but what is it in your area? What's the big thing? Are you a member of some club or some other thing that kind of establishes that rapport? And then the final thing that I'll talk about once I can read it here is actually I already kind of talked about it. It's just communicating that value to your clients. So you have a tendency to shoot low with your numbers, especially when you're starting. Like, I can't charge this, I can't charge that. Or more importantly, like the Essential Craftsman said, is you think a job is going to take you 2 hours and it ends up taking you 5 hours, right? You should know that over time, right? Murphy's Law always shows up, right? Something is always going to go wrong. And I like the point that he put in there is, hey, overestimate and underpromise. And then if things go smoothly, if nothing breaks, if the time goes well, do an extra job on the side, right? Hey, I noticed your gutter's falling down. Hey, I noticed this. Throw it in there for free. It's not really for free because it's going to be rolled up in your cost, but use those opportunities for that. When it goes longer, then you've estimated appropriately. But when it goes shorter than expected, give them extra value, right? Always be thinking about that. What value can I bring to you? What value can I bring to you? Because that's ultimately what you're doing. You're saving people time, money, aggravation, those types of things. And that is your value. That's your worth. So look at it when you look at customers. Get rid of the ones that don't appreciate you. Narrow it down to a subset and promote your value to those who truly do understand your value. Those things that I mentioned: reliability, the on time, the communication, those types of things. If you stick to those principles and you display those over and over again, you can creep up your rates and you can be at the higher echelons of the people around you. and just get the lower guys out of your mind. In fact, when somebody comes to hit you and they're like, that's ridiculous, send them to the lower guys, right? Let them take that work off your plate. You also build a little bit of value because, hey, I sent them over here to so-and-so's handyman business. So anyway, I appreciate the Essential Craftsman putting that video out today. It's inspiring. I appreciate it. I love his channel. I think he does great stuff. And I figured I would just do a little bit of a handyman spin on that. So thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And stay tuned for the next one.
Step into the unknown. This is where dreams are born.